The Earth is our home. We all share this planet. Microbes, plants, and trees produce oxygen through photosynthesis, creating, filtering, and constantly renewing the Earth's atmosphere. Each generation of life in dying gives up its body to continuously build the living soils that feed all life. The forests, the grasslands, the wetlands, the rivers and the streams flowing to the oceans all help to regulate the water cycle, the weather, and the climate. These natural processes make life possible and are part of our common heritage. Throughout human history, caring for nature has been an act of collective stewardship, known to all cultures on the earth. Today, in all continents, many people depend upon commonly held lands, known as the commons, for their very survival. Reviving the meaning of a forgotten concept and reclaiming the local people's rights over commonly held resources may hold the answers to many pressing problems.
चीज़ ने सम्मेली तो आपा तो सूबे भी जाना उम्र पूरी भी ना अपन सब कुछ जाना है.
Había una empresa del gobierno que se llamaba Protimbus que trabajaba los bosques, pero en aquel entonces no se hacían los trabajos como se debían. En aquel entonces pues, no se chaponeaba, no se reforestaba, no se le daba mantenimiento a los caminos. Bueno, prácticamente nada más venían y cortaban la madera y ya.
Ensuring the fair distribution of resources is an issue that affects billions of people in every continent on Earth.
This is the mall in Washington, D.C. I worked here about 30 years ago and worked in the Capitol. I saw how close up how the government was really not a very good trustee of our common resources. It mismanaged them, it didn't collect the rent for all sorts of things like public lands and the airwaves, and it abused them. So I wanted to explore how the commons might be a better alternative for protecting our shared resources.
The concept of the commons is connected to the ancient past, a world order that is older than the state and the marketplace. Could this ancient knowledge hold the potential to address a number of interconnected global problems? Poverty, food insecurity, biodiversity loss, and even climate change.
There is a widespread action, I hope it is global in nature, reviving the thinking around commons. It is coming from discussions with indigenous people. It is coming in dimensions such as ecological conservation. It is coming in terms of debates around property rights. It's coming from technology world like digital commons. So there is a groundswell beginning to take shape.
ତରବର ଗଛ 5 ଫୁଟ 7 ଫୁଟ 6 ଫୁଟ 4 ଫୁଟ ଶାଳ ପିଆଶାଳ ମହୁଲ କେନ୍ଦୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାରର ଗଛ ରଖାଯାଇଥିଲା। ଏ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଗଛକୁ ସବୁ ସର୍ବନାଶ କଲା କମ୍ପାନୀ। ଅଜୈବ ବର୍ଷ ୟୁଜ୍ କରି ତାକୁ ଭସ୍ମସାତ କରିଦେଲା। ପ୍ରଜାକୁ ଟାଉଟର ଧରିକିରି ଏମିତି କରିକିରି ତାକୁ ଇଏ ଦେଲା। ଭୁଳି ସାତ କରିଦେଲା 5 ଫୁଟ 7 ଫୁଟ 4 ଫୁଟ ନହନି ରକ୍ତ ବି ଆଖିରୁ ପଡ଼ୁଛି କିନ୍ତୁ କ'ଣ କରିବୁ ଆମର ଉପାୟହୀନ କିଛି ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆମେ ଆଉ କିଛି କରିପାରିବୁ।
The United Nations estimates that over 70% of the people on Earth have no formal title to the land that they depend on for their very survival. How is that possible? By what right were so many people excluded from the land? This issue affects a very large number of people on the Earth and is not going to simply go away.
सिवाय चक ज़मीन वगैरह अगर मतलब जैसे इनमें हमारे जीवन एक तो जानवरों पर डिपेंड है जिन पे
चल अचल संपत्ति गांव की होती है, भी नुकसान एक आदमी वो इनकम ले जाए, हजारों आदमी नुकसान दे दो,
ये नष्ट हो जाएंगे। नष्ट हो गए तो यहाँ के जो पानी का जो पीने की है ना, वो सबसे बड़ी समस्या वो तो विकट होगी।
पास के गांवों को जोड़ो कि भाई एक तो निस्वार्थ तो स्वयं की इच्छा पे जो आप जो संगठन बनान काम करो तो लंबो समय तक चाले, एक स्वार्थों संगठन बनाओ तो आज को दिन चाले शाम के खत्म हो जाए।
Where communities manage common land, there is evidence that it is not only the communities who benefit.
20 साल से पहले बताया ना आपको, यहाँ दौड़ उठती थी, कनात लगवाई चारों तरफ, खुदाई लगवाई चारों तरफ, इसके चारों तरफ बाउंड्री वाल करवाई, डोली लगवाई, घास लगवाया हमने। ये आज इधर आ रही है कंपनी, इधर आ गई कंपनी, ये कंपनी देखो पूरा कब्जा कर लिया, ये कब्जा कर लिया, मोटे मोटे लोग आते हैं।
Why is it that those with so much seem to want more, and that more must come from those who have so little?
डर लगती जब फिर पेड़ पूरा 6 बजे यहाँ पर आओ जी में अत्य तो बच्चा को लेके आओ जी, उसको जाड़े में सुवार दी, बुढ़े में सुवार देती, उसको खड्डे खोदे जी में। अब ये 15 वर्ष तो मेरे अच्छी चली है।
हम दर ना दे के बढ़ेंगे क्यों? हमारी जीवन रोटी जा रही है तो किस काम की? जब जीवन ही जा रहा है हमारा तो किस काम का?
Land being taken away from small farmers or from small producers is one of the gravest injustices that one can imagine. Land is the basis of livelihoods for these people. And without land, we are condemning them to a future of low levels of nutrition and starvation.
This is a time of great risk, but also of great opportunity.
Our land rights and human rights associated with the use of resources are those going to provide a basis for bringing claims in fora like the International Criminal Court. And if you were to see cases being brought in front of the ICC for violations of resource rights because they're connected to human rights, then I think you'd also see significant pressure to change behaviors.
We need to admit that mistakes have been made and ensure that the future is more inclusive and fair.
25 years ago, when the international community was investing heavily into agriculture, there was a feeling that we need to export the Western property rights model. There was an attempt to dismantle customary systems, and there was an attempt to abolish them because they were not modern. And there was in many places it failed miserably. Because pastoral communities weren't going to give up their commons, and communities weren't going to give up the forest that they benefited significantly from.
A lot of things can be learned from the case of Nepal, where we have a very special situation that about 25 years ago, the whole forest management was handed back from the state to the communities at a national level. And this mirrors something that has been found by commons research all over the world, which is that community management of forest resources or land resources is at least as sustainable, if not better, as state-managed or privately managed resource management.
About 75% of all the forests of Mexico are owned by collectives. Some of them are indigenous communities and some of them are peasant communities. And they manage that forest collectively. And that works. In fact, the forest is better protected in Mexico that is owned by collectives than public forests and public national forests. There's more deforestation in public land. Since the government has recognized the full set of rights of these communities to have enterprises and use their forests, then those forests have generated a tremendous amount of jobs as well as hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue to the government in terms of taxes.
El manejo de los bosques en esta región está regulado por la Unión de Ejidos y los ejidos se han puesto de acuerdo a través de esta organización para manejar sus bosques, que sigan esos bosques siendo productivos sin que corra el riesgo de que pudiéramos deteriorarlos o degradarlos.
Everyone who is alive today is connected genetically with all life since the beginning of time. It is impossible for it to be otherwise. In this way, we are all equal. Yet over historical time, we have allowed the rights of some to be massively enhanced and the rights of others to be abused. We've even created laws and systems that have institutionalized a situation that we know to be inherently wrong. Gradually throughout history, our species has risen to embrace the fundamental human rights of all people. Massive institutional crimes like slavery and fascism have been overcome.
In 1968, Professor Garrett Hardin wrote an article called The Tragedy of the Commons. And this has caused a lot of people to believe that it's inevitable that common lands lead to ecological degradation. This is simply not the case. It's necessary for us to understand that there is a promise of the commons. We have to replace the tragedy of the commons with the promise of the commons, and that people who live close to the land have the best ability to sequester carbon in the biomass and in the soil organic matter. We need them in order to ensure a sustainable future for humanity.
The necessity to create a new functional economy with the central intention to mitigate and adapt to human-induced climate change is also an opportunity to address the needs of those whose fundamental human rights have been lost. In this way, rather than increasing risk and instability by leaving the majority of the people on Earth in hopeless poverty, everyone can be employed in the urgent task at hand of sequestering carbon in the biomass and in the organic matter, and ensuring that the soil and biodiversity can not only feed those who are alive today, but can ensure that future generations survive to live in peace and equity.